Hello learners, and welcome to today's explainer on disaster management. This session has been specially created by MindSticks Foundation Trust. I'm your host, and today we're going to take a steady, structured look at how we understand, categorize, and actually respond to sudden catastrophic events. Let's just jump right in. On our agenda today, we are covering four main topics: understanding disasters, types of disasters, their multidimensional effects, and finally, the phases of management. Let's move on.
Section 1. Understanding disasters. Because before we can manage any critical event, we really need to define exactly what it is we're dealing with.
So how do we define it? Well, the United Nations defines a disaster as the sudden event that leads to the huge loss of life and property. Notice that the crux of this definition rests on two absolutely vital words: sudden and huge. These dangerous events happen completely out of the blue, making proper precautions almost impossible. And the resulting loss to the people caught in it, it's just on a massive scale.
But, it's very important to remember that the timeline for every disaster isn't the same. We have short-term disasters. Think of a massive cyclone hitting Odisha or Gujarat. Regardless of the total chaos initially, public life often bounces back to normal fairly quickly. But on the flip side, we have long-term disasters. Here, the after effects are extremely severe, and the damage actually increases as time goes on. Famine, rising ocean levels, or widespread desertification are prime examples of this.
Which brings up a really crucial question for our explainer today. How can disasters be classified depending upon various criteria? Think about how we can systematically group these dangerous events so we can study them properly in a formal academic manner. That leads us nicely to Section 2, Types of Disasters. Let's look at the formal framework. When we map this out, we essentially see three main buckets. First up, we have geophysical disasters. We can break this down further into geological events like your earthquakes and volcanoes, and atmospheric events like cyclones or severe droughts. Second, we have biological disasters. This covers plant-level crises like massive forest fires and animal-level issues like infectious viruses, which we are all too familiar with now. And thirdly, man-made disasters. This bucket captures unknowns like accidental leaks of poisonous gases and international actions, things like war or forced mass migration.
Now, memorizing these categories is just the starting point. The real question I want to ask you is, what is the exact nature and gravity of these disasters on our society? We have to train ourselves to look beyond just the immediate physical damage and consider the much deeper ripple effects on our entire public infrastructure.
This brings us right into Section 3, the multidimensional effects of disasters. Let's analyze how deeply a crisis impacts the very pillars of human life.
If you think about it like a concept map, a single disaster sits right at the center, but the impact radiates outward in all directions. It's not just causing physical harm. It's simultaneously shaking up our environmental, political, social, and medical spheres. The entire system of normal living is totally disturbed.
Let's logically break down these specific effects to understand their connections. Economically, you're looking at a sudden, massive spike in expenses for reconstruction, which directly drains funds away from other vital development projects. Socially, if your local leadership is hurt or unavailable, citizens naturally get confused, and participation in rescue activities drops. Now, that drop in participation can trigger an administrative collapse, where government departments simply can't handle the sheer volume of problems. And meanwhile, environmentally, we are dealing with the partial collapsing of buildings, dangerous contamination of drinking water, and terrible pollution from decomposing materials.
Seeing this multi-dimensional domino effect, it naturally begs the question, doesn't it? How on earth do we manage the sheer scope of these disasters? How do common citizens and local authorities actually work together to restore normalcy?
That takes us to our final and most action-oriented section, the phases of disaster management. These are the chronological steps everyone needs to know.
Whenever a disaster strikes, regardless of its nature, our response and recovery is governed by three critical, sequential phases. Step 1 is the phase of emergency. Step 2 is a transitional phase, and Step 3 is the reconstruction phase.
Let's zoom in on Step 1, the phase of emergency. The absolutely crucial characteristic of this phase is that maximum lives can be saved through quick, decisive actions during this window alone. Your immediate focus is 100% on rapid response. We are talking about search and rescue operations, giving first aid, providing medical assistance, and urgently restoring vital communication links. And honestly, it's only during this initial phase that you can even begin to estimate the true gravity of what just happened. Once the immediate emergency subsides, we enter the transitional phase. This is where the actual rehabilitation work kicks off. You're clearing away debris, getting the water supply running again, and repairing main roads just so basic public life can slowly restart. But crucially, this is also when different institutions step in to offer much-needed monetary and mental support to the victims. Giving psychological support to soothe the immense mental stress of the survivors, that is considered the true essence of real rehabilitation.
Finally, we arrive at the reconstruction phase. Make no mistake, this is a highly complicated and very long-term process. Rebuilding permanent structures, fixing massive road networks, and setting up complex water facilities takes a lot of time. It's during this prolonged stretch that citizens permanently reconstruct their homes and essential farming practices are finally brought back to life.
As we wrap up our lesson today, I really want to leave you with a profound observation from our source text. Conditions of natural imbalance have been arisen due to greed of economic progress of human being. It is a very sobering academic reminder for all of us. So many of the modern disasters and emerging crises we face today are being fiercely amplified by extreme resource exploitation and rapid population growth since the Second World War.
Which leaves us with one final thought-provoking question to ponder as we conclude. As our population continues to grow and these global challenges keep multiplying, how are we going to adapt our management strategies to actually protect our future generations? I highly encourage you to think deeply about how you might apply today's explainer in the real world. Keep studying your classifications, stay prepared for emergencies, and thank you so much for joining me in class today.